I consider myself fortunate every day that I was born into this because it's what I love and what I want to do, and that I have the chance to do it.
What worries you, Matt? You know, these are, your fourth generation. You got young children. What worries you? Because you're invested heavily in this lifestyle, and it's not just a job, it is a full-blown lifestyle.
Right. It was a simpler time of doing those things, and the crop prices reflected the fertilizer prices, reflected the new machinery prices. If something's broke down, a screen or a sensor might have you out of the field. Might not be anything wrong, but a sensor goes out that costs you $80 and you can't work ground. There's so few of the people our age coming back to farm that's partly what's driving these smaller farms to go out and these bigger farms coming forth. Is there's not the small farms or the numbers to keep them going. It's just there's so many moving parts, and then you're all at the mercy of the weather or the markets or how the politics fall, because that has effects on the markets and everything too. The new thing I hear a lot of guys talking, whether it be on the radio or on social media, is farmers' mental health, and I think that's been a thing forever, but there's a lot of stress that goes with it.
Is it even possible for somebody to buy a quarter section with the house that is habitable? You got to put habitable on it. Okay. And earn a living? Well, good afternoon from central Kansas. It's a warm one this afternoon in the low 80s, and it's the end of September. There's a lot in 2025. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and there's a lot happening in farm country. This is the time of year when crops like the beans, corn, and silage and milo start coming up for harvest. Today, I'm driving out to meet up with one of Rebecca's cousins, Matt Hildebrand. He's a multi-generational farmer, very active in the community. He is kind of the up-and-coming next generation of adult farmers. Got a beautiful young family, and we're going to have a conversation with him about anything and everything regarding farming and life. All right. Well, now that's funny. I arrived at the field here, and I thought the wrong tractor was Matt. So to Matt's neighbor, Ernie, I got some really good drone footage of you working your field. Matt, looks like from what's happening here, is working ground, and if you don't know what that is, I'll tell. He'll tell you here in a minute. Oh, looks like there's a sprayer coming my direction here. Okay. Good afternoon, cuz.
How's it going?
Doing well. How you doing?
Doing good.
Oh, man.
Sorry, it's a little bit of a tight fit.
Oh, yeah. Well, now if your neighbor Ernie wants any drone shots, just send them my way.
Sounds good. I called him. He said, I think the government might be out to get me. He said, nope, I think you're good.
Yep.
So,
how you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good to
Let's
see
get you
you.
mic'd up. Yeah, great to see you
Okay.
as well.
Whatever you want to do here. So,
Just shoot the shit
sounds good to me.
in air conditioning.
Yes.
got both mics.
Okay.
All right, we are rolling through a field, and let's just start off with talking about what are you doing today?
So we're out here working this field again for, I think this is our third or fourth time across this. We worked it deep with a chisel earlier this year, kind of break stuff up. But this would have been wheat ground out here in stubble after we cut the wheat. And so we're pulling the blade across it now. This is breaking up a little bit more of the stubble. We're turning a little more of that stubble under. We're killing any weeds or grass that started out here. Any of that weed seed we're turning under. And we're basically making a crop bed for our next crop, which is going to be wheat again.
Okay. So there are a couple ways I've seen farmers do it. Some people decide to spray the ground when it starts to weed up, and some people decide to work the ground over and over again. I've also noticed some people spray the ground and maybe they'll switch it over to another crop and they'll just leave the stubble.
Right. So yeah, we're basically we're working this ground because this is a lot heavier, stickier ground. We kind of farm a little bit of everything, a little bit of sand, a little bit of dark black ground. But this is our heavier, kind of loamy ground, I guess I would say. Still maybe a sandy loam, but just holds moisture better. And in my opinion, not everybody agrees with this, but in my opinion, this darker, thicker soil responds better to conventional tillage, which would be pulling the iron through it, and working it up, whether that be a disc, whether that be a blade. This is actually what we would probably call minimum till, where we might have sprayed this the first time, and I think we did this year. We sprayed it with Roundup this year to kind of burn everything off one time, and then we came out and chiseled it, and the last time we bladed it. So we're not turning everything under like the old days of plowing and completely burying everything, but we're still leaving some of this straw on top, which kind of almost creates a mulch layer to hold some moisture, but then doesn't allow the ground to blow.
And that is a big concern, is the ground blowing away, because a lot of times don't you want the volunteer wheat to come up and help hold the ground?
Yes, we do. And it's kind of a happy medium, because you don't want too much volunteer, because you're going to be pulling moisture that would be stored for the next crop, but you also don't want it too clean to where it's going to erode away, and if it blows like it does here in Kansas, then it's going to blow the topsoil away, and you lose your nutrients and a lot of stuff with that as well. So there's kind of a happy medium to that minimum tillage, keeping enough stubble, whether that be dead weeds and grass or stubble on top, to keep it from blowing without getting it too green and too full of weeds.
Yeah.
Moving through, to take too much moisture or anything as well either, or produce too much weed seed.
Well, sometimes it just seems futile.
Right.
The fighting the weeds.
Yep.
And the weeds seem to be getting stronger.
They do. And every year I think we fight more that are resistant to our sprays.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these pigweeds, we can pull this. So this blade that we're pulling now is what we would call an undercutter. It's got a blade about 15, 18 inches, and it's going underneath that ground a couple inches. We're cutting off the roots from the weeds as well as turning that ground. Well, these pigweeds, you cut the roots off and they'll just shoot another root off to the side if it's fairly damp, and they'll stand right back up. They're getting a little worse every year. I think they're almost mutated.
Wow. And Steve, Rebecca's dad, was mentioning army worms.
Army worms have been
are problematic and kind of prevent you guys from drilling wheat, which means planting wheat with the air seed.
Yeah, so the army worms are worse than I've ever seen them this year. And in fact, this ground that we're on, it had a lot of volunteer weed out here. You could see weeds coming up, and actually the worms have come out here and killed the volunteer, or eaten the volunteer off and eaten a lot of these weeds off. So it doesn't look as bad out here as what it did a few weeks ago. You can still see some green out here, and we're still killing some of those small weeds. But as much as they've hurt us by eating some of our alfalfa and eating off some of our triticale that we're planting for cattle grazing, or wheat, they've actually benefited us on keeping these weeds down in some of this outground because it's been so wet we couldn't get on it. So, but they have been just really, really bad this year.
Yeah.
They've taken whole fields of alfalfa. I had to replant some triticale that I planted for pasture that was just eating as quick as it grew. So
That's rough. That is rough. And wheat harvest was rough as well this year, with all the rain, and it just seemed to take forever. And a lot of farmers were not able to get milo in the ground before wheat harvest.
Right. It's just
so
it
the
was
schedule
wet.
seems to be all off this year.
It does. We're really late on a lot of this milo. And as it turns out, with all the rain, it might be another good year for the late planted milo like it was last year. It kind of depends on the year, if the early planted or the late planted produces better. But this year has just been a wet year, which we really can't complain about because we've been in such a drought season.
Yeah.
But it does. It just changes the whole way that we go about doing stuff and the timeline.
Yeah. You are a multi-generational farmer. Like the Hildebrands are old school. Like, do you guys go all the way back to the homesteading era of the Midwest?
I would say, yeah. So we had some cousins basically way back, or the family that came over, at the same time as the Mayflower, there shortly after. And I'm really bad on the actual dates and how long they've been here. There's some people in the family that can really tell you all the history and know the whole thing, but the way I understand it, a lot of our ancestors ended up in the Ellenwood area and kind of started farming, homesteading there just as people were getting into this area, and then slowly started moving south. And like my grandpa and my great-grandpa ended up in Bedford. That's where my grandpa was born. Bedford was a little town about, it'd been about 4 miles north of Stafford, and then back to the west about a mile and a half.
Wow.
Little tiny
That's
town.
a very little town.
Yeah, right along the railroad. I don't think it was bigger than maybe a couple football fields wide. I mean, really, really small town. He was born in Bedford, and then whenever he was 6, he moved to the house a mile outside of Stafford where my dad lives now. So and then they've been farming, for I'd be 4th generation farm, I believe. And I'm actually off a generation due to my dad and my grandpa getting married a little later in life. They were almost 35, 40 by the time they got married. So a lot of the guys that are my same generation in the Hildebrand family are 40s and 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm only 32. So
this might be a little too personal, but I do really like the story of how your parents came together.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, and they've stayed together for all these decades. So
Yeah.
are you cool sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad grew up here in Stafford, and not a big town, and he went off to college for a couple years in Hutch JUCO, which is where I went for a year, or actually 2 years, I guess. I drove a year to college my second year and lived back on the farm. Well, he went off to college a couple years, came back, and started farming. And there wasn't a lot to choose from here in Stafford, so I think years and years went by, and he ended up getting talked into putting his name into some type of, I think it was called Country Connections. And it was a dating type magazine through the High Plains Journal.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly how my mom found out about it. I think there was a couple dares back and forth that, hey, you should put your name in on this. So my dad put up a profile and they listed it out, and my mom found it somewhere, and they started writing letters back and forth. And she was from California, and she moved all over California and lived in different places. I believe she was in Orange County at this point. And she flew out a few times and met him, and she ended up moving out here actually, and then practically had to beg him to propose, and then they got married finally. So that would have been 1988, I think, when they met, 1990 when they got married. But
That's an awesome story.
yeah, from across the country,
Yeah.
and this was, of course, before online dating.
Exactly.
Before cell phones.
Match.com, all that stuff.
Lots
yeah.
of letters back and forth, lots of just talking on the phone,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah.
So, what worries you, Matt? You know, these are, your fourth generation, and you got young children. What worries you? Because you're invested heavily in this lifestyle, and it's not just a job; it is a full-blown lifestyle.
Right. Well, to be quite honest, that's a very long list of worries, and it, without getting political or going down that road, just the farm kind of worries me a little bit. The state of farming now, back in the day, and I say back in the day, 30 years ago, when my dad was starting farming or just getting well established into farming, it was a totally different game than what it is now. You could go out, afford to buy new tractors that was simple technology, but you could buy a new tractor and you'd be set for years and years, and you wouldn't have costly breakdowns. I mean, you'd have breakdowns. Everything's going to break, but it was a simpler time of doing those things, and the crop prices reflected the fertilizer prices, reflected the new machinery prices, and here we sit with corn that is on a low trend right now. That whenever it was on its high trend 30 years ago, it was the same price as what it is today.
Yeah, it is amazing the price per bushel. If you look historically, where numbers are at right now.
It really is, and that being said, we're spending so much more money on equipment. A brand new tractor, and this is just kind of spitballing, but a brand new tractor with 200 horsepower, which would pull anything you needed to pull back in 30, 40 years ago, was maybe $15,000, $20,000, maybe upwards of 25.
Were you allowed to work on that tractor back then?
That's the thing. You could work on it yourself.
Yeah.
It was all mechanical, and we just can't do anything anymore. It takes a computer or a specialized John Deere tech to come out and work on this stuff.
John Deere's a little on the particular side about letting people work on their equipment.
Right, and more so in the electronics, they won't allow us to have the programs to work on that stuff, and even more so, these tractors, it's almost like nobody knows how to fix them anymore. And maybe that's me pointing fingers, not specifically to any dealers around here, but we have something go wrong, and we can throw a lot of money at it and a lot of time, and John Deere can come out 3 or 4 times and not get it fixed. Nobody really knows how to fix this stuff. It's just kind of experimenting, because there's so many circuits and so many things that can go wrong. And yet these older tractors, I've got an older 4955 John Deere, and it's all, there's a few electronics to run some lights and run some gauges, but at the end of the day, if that thing, you turn the key, it's going to run.
Yeah.
And we're not to that point now, where if something's broke down, a screen or a sensor might have you out of the field. Might not be anything wrong, but a sensor goes out that costs you $80 and you can't work ground.
Yeah. So, and you may have weather looming or any number of deadlines.
Right. Well, and then on the backside of that is, if you have an older tractor and you want to go buy a new one, so that you just are set to go for some years, you're looking at $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 for one of these new tractors that would have the same horsepower as, say, the one we're in. And even then, you've got so many electronics that you may or may not have problems right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a different, even though things are worth more, and we're producing more bushels, between the cost of living, the cost of machinery, the cost of fertilizer, everything in general is just so much more expensive, yet we're not following that trend with our grain prices right now.
Yeah. And a lot of governments subsidize farmers, and historically there have been times when the government has subsidized American farmers because the population needs to eat. A lot of people don't realize that if you guys are not out here doing your thing, people don't necessarily have the food on their table.
Right. And everybody has a different opinion about that too, as well. You know, everybody will say, well, you're growing wheat, sure, that makes flour, that makes bread, so on and so forth. But a lot of times they don't realize that, yeah, but we're also growing corn. Well, it's field corn. That's not what we eat in the grocery store. Well, that's going to the local feedlot, which is going to feed beef. And beef is what you're going to go buy for dinner tonight. You know, it's going into to feed for all these other animals. It goes so much deeper than people realize. Yeah. And we live in a world that a lot of people don't realize where that comes from now, too.
Yeah, there is a very large disconnect with, I don't want to like just say folks that live in the city, but if you're not out here or you don't have a family heritage, you don't necessarily appreciate what it takes. And when Rebecca and I are home in Alaska, we go hunting and fishing to help fill our freezer with healthy meats.
Right.
And you don't really appreciate that until you're out in the field humping this animal out of the bush, and then you're processing it. And nothing comes easy, and we all kind of need to coexist. And I know that's a little bit of a cliche word, but like the city people need the country people need the city people.
Yeah,
and there's like a really big division and confusion of like about who each other really is.
Yep. Yeah, cliche or not, that's the perfect word. Is we've got to. It takes everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess from this side of it, it's really easy to say, oh yeah, we're feeding the world. We're doing all this work. We have to do this work because we're feeding the world. But I also think that there's there's less of the farm generations. This is kind of going down another rabbit hole.
Hey, we got time. We got several more.
Yeah,
rows.
Absolutely. Well, we got more on that side too. So there's plenty. But
I might have to plug the camera in.
Do what?
Plug the camera in for battery.
Yep. Well, so going down that rabbit hole of there's so many less farmers nowadays too. You know, I my best friend and I grew up together here, and we farmed together here, and 22 in my graduating class, and there was a few of them, other ones from farm families. Well, him and I are the only two left.
Wow.
And another buddy works for a John Deere dealership that his family farmed. That he lives about 30, 40 miles away now. And other than that, there's two of us that are farming, and we're both 32 years old. There's a couple other guys that are in that 40 to 50 year old range that farm around here close. And then the greater age is like my dad was in Steve's class, you know, and there's 7 from that class. There's a whole bunch of guys in that 60 to 80 range that still farm, and some into the 90 range, even some cousins of mine. And it just, there's so few of the people our age coming back to farm. That's partly what's driving these smaller farms to go out, and these bigger farms coming forth. Is there's not the small farms or the numbers to keep them going.
But then again, what is a small farm nowadays? Because we're entering the era when corporate farming, you know, you guys are going to be in this position. I almost want to call it like Yellowstone, that TV show where they're just trying to keep the corporations from getting their land and to preserve what is there. And corporations are going to be coming for all this farmland. Yep.
And I wouldn't say that's something we necessarily deal with here on a day-to-day basis in this area, but it's close to us. You know, you go 50 miles in either direction, and I can see that happening in different places where there's bigger and bigger corporations just swallowing this up. Now, they might be farming corporations because this is a big farming community, but they're big conglomerates of 4, 5, 6, 10 guys that
millions of acres, not tens of thousands or thousands of acres.
Yep, that just keep building more and more into these big things, and then they just hire the people to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I consider ourselves a small farm here, and there's a lot of guys our size in this area, but again, there's a lot of them that are 70, 75, 80 years old that I don't know how long they're going to be doing it, and or if they're going to keep going, if their kids are going to keep going, you know. And really, I'm all for some of this new technology. You know, I mean, GPS is fantastic. I'm not driving right now. It's driving itself through just a straight line, you know. And this technology is great to an extent. You know, I don't have to have a refrigerator in my tractor like they're built in on some of these new ones and stuff. But there's still a sense of keeping that old school way of doing things, you know, and preserving what we have of tilling the soil and working it. You know, a lot of this has gone no-till, and there's a lot of technology there too, which we do a lot of as well. But there's still something to be said for turning the ground, planting a crop, and doing it the old school way, and still preserving that history almost too, and the heritage that goes along with it. So.
All right, now, since we're talking about technology, I have a good one for you. Okay. Agricultural drones.
Okay.
Now, I can see so many benefits to agricultural drones, but the biggest downside that I can see to them, because I have bought so many damn cameras and drones over the past decade, is that the tech is going to be outdated in a year or two, and somebody's going to spend $150,000 on the, I'll call it the creator combo farming drone package, and in 2 years or so it's going to be outdated.
Yep. And I've seen it happen firsthand. Not only, I mean, a little different on the consumer level drone, like what I've bought to go check my circle or check cows, you know, with, or just film with. But a buddy of mine started drone spraying this year. Kind of started out as, I'll do this as a hobby, and then he realized there's money in it. Mm-hmm. And he bought, I believe, a drone at the beginning of the season that 3 months in realized was horribly outdated. He bought another one, which was about the newest one on the market, sprayed with it all summer, did a great job. He sprayed a circle of mine for fungicide this year on my corn, and same price as what I could have got him sprayed for the plane. So right there within, you know, didn't change my program at all. You know, it was right there within my budget of what I was already going to do, and worked out great. But he called me the other day, and he's already looking at the newest best thing. It hasn't even come out yet, but his is already obsolete to a point. So this tractor, what year is this tractor? This is actually a 2013.
That's still, and it has a decade or more left in it.
Right, and that's the thing. It's got 5,300 hours on it, you know, and we've actually been talking recently about, well, should we upgrade it? Should we not upgrade it? You know, it's got quite a few hours on it, but we know what we have in it. And like I said, the replacement for this, brand new, is $500,000 probably. And for equal horsepower and brand new. And then, like I said too, I don't know quite where we're going with this. The newest level has a heated and cooled leather seat, a heated steering wheel, a fridge under the passenger seat. I mean,
which could be kind of nice.
It could be. I mean, I'm all for creature comforts, but at the same time, that's part of what's fueling that $500,000 price tag. And you can't buy a stripped down version of this tractor now. So I'm not sure which direction to go, whether we upgrade, whether we keep this one, you know. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, 5,300 hours, if we keep doing our regular maintenance on it, should be fine.
Yeah.
And we count on this tractor a lot. So I couldn't even tell you what it was worth right now. That's such an up and down market. You don't know what it might be worth on trade.
Well, it's worth a lot to you because you're out here working.
Absolutely.
You've got the bugs and kinks worked out of it for the most part, probably.
We know what we're getting whenever we start to turn the key, you know, and we may have a problem pop up at some point and have to go down the route of fixing it, you know, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you put hours on something, it's not going to last forever.
Exactly.
And I should back up a little. I talk a lot about John Deere work. We run a lot of John Deere equipment, so I think it's pretty well the same across the board. Whether you're buying Case Red, whether you're buying New Holland Blue, it doesn't matter what you're buying. The technology is all in the same way. The problems with the new technology and being outdated, I think across the board, we just have experience with John Deere because that's what we run.
Exactly. So, there's Ford, Chevy, Dodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be one of them.
Right.
So now, also technology and stuff that adds to the price tag of this equipment. In automobiles, at least, our truck that we ship to Europe is a 2007 on purpose because there's no deep diesel exhaust fluid or ultra low sulfur diesel requirements.
Right.
What year did that technology come into farm equipment?
So it's kind of different across the board. Again, speaking from John Deere's perspective, because that's what we've got. This tractor is a 2013, and there's quite a few tractors out there, I believe, non-John Deere's that have DEF on them.
Okay.
This one does not. And John Deere basically kind of, I'm not sure exactly what they did, if they kind of changed something in their motor. This tractor is a twin turbo, so they actually use that second turbo to kind of course, it's a great overview here, but basically it heats the exhaust up and regens itself, so it still has an exhaust particulate filter, and it will regen itself every once in a while to burn off all those exhaust fumes, and that's kind of how they got rid of not having to put DEF on that. We've got a 2016 or 2017 four-wheel drive that does have DEF on it.
Okay.
And I believe it was either the first or second year that John Deere had the Tier 4 final with DPF.
Has it been a good tractor?
It really has.
Oh, good.
It really has. It had honestly, we haven't had any DPF related problems with it. We've had a couple other little things, just kind of normal stuff, a couple recalls, and one of them that was a little more major that John Deere stood behind, which ended up being good. But we haven't had really any DEF problems with it. That being said, I owned a DEF pickup, and I replaced the entire pump, heater, unit, the whole thing of the DPF system 3 times. And
wow.
I bought it with 80,000 miles and sold it with 170. I replaced that 3 times. So we've fought it, and we don't have a lot of equipment on the farm that has DEF now, but we've also fought that side of it too.
Yeah.
So I would say, as general rule, that 2012 to 2015 was when they really started introducing DPF and DEF into the farm equipment specifically.
This part of the country is very fascinating because when you're flying over in an airplane, you see a bunch of circles and a bunch of squares. And all these circles and squares, well, the circles are obviously irrigators, but they are 1 mile sections. And these 1 mile sections go all the way back to the homesteading days. And for the most part, there were homes on every single one of these quarter sections.
Yep, that's exactly right. There was one actually right out here on this hill that we just turned on a couple times ago. That's the thing, on all the ground that we've farmed, I can almost tell you where all the old home sections were, and this one is right up there on the hill. So that was a very normal thing, and now you can drive for miles and not pass a house. It's kind of amazing how much it's changed, and really even in my lifetime, more so in my dad's lifetime, but there's a lot of old houses that are in tree rows, different places. There's another one right over there on the other side of this road on that section, and there's no house left.
Yeah.
And then some of them, they wipe all the trees out and they turn into farmland. So that's how it used to be, and that's not the case anymore.
Is it even possible for somebody to buy a quarter section with a house that is habitable? You got to put habitable on it.
Okay.
And earn a living? Like, given the cost of equipment, the cost of fuel, I would almost think you almost have to be of a certain size in order to make it viable.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I don't honestly know, and I consider myself fortunate every day that I was born into this, because it's what I love and what I want to do, and that I have the chance to do it. And I've got a couple buddies that didn't grow up in it that they'd love to farm, but there's no real way to get into it. I mean, I don't think there's a way with the market and the price of land and the price of equipment nowadays that you could ever get into, like, say, buying a quarter of ground, going out and buying enough equipment or renting equipment or even custom hiring somebody else to farm it and still make ends meet.
Yeah.
Without having either a start in it or just
Scale.
going under. Yeah, or the scale. That's the thing. You've got to do it in such a big scale to be able to make ends meet. You know, I don't know what that scale would be. I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
Oh yeah.
How much that would actually be. I don't know if I could put an acre amount on it, but I'm not sure. You know, a full section.
Yeah.
That'd be 640 acres. I'm not sure you could do it on that scale. I think it would have to go beyond that. And even then, you're looking at such a great startup cost, even if you're just renting ground to buy the equipment or rent the equipment, lease the equipment. I don't know. I don't see it being something easy to get into, and it's not something I've seen anybody do anywhere around here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's just disturbing stuff happening to try to get the farmland out of the private farmers.
Yeah, something
like that.
that some corporation that is just looking to get rid of money or just grow. You know,
and I say corporation, not meaning us. Like Rebecca and I, we have LLCs, S corp, C corp. You guys probably have, entities. We're talking massive corporations that are coming for the good old American people because they want to consolidate and everybody to be an employee, probably one day managing the equipment that will run itself. Is like that movie Inception with Matthew McConaughey. And he's just the guy keeping the farm equipment running.
Yeah, I mean that's where technology is headed, or at least where they want us to think it's headed. And I know what a new tractor costs nowadays that I would have to get in and still run.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to guess what one that I don't have to run costs. So I don't know. And then another thing on the technology side, like you said, what's it gonna the cost along with, is it gonna be outdated? How hard is it gonna be to run? But that's where we're headed with this.
It is.
So, and the corporations are gonna be the guys that can afford that. It's not gonna be us guys that are still out here running the older equipment that are gonna be able to afford that stuff.
Because a lot of farmers, there's this saying, you're busting your ass to break even.
Right. And a lot of years, that's exactly what it is. So,
and the stress, the mental stress and mental therapy, those are all big words nowadays, but it is very real. You have all this crop in the ground spread amongst thousands of acres, and any number of things can just screw it up, and then one field goes down. Okay, well that's 5% of my crops. Like the stress.
Yep. There's, that's the new thing I hear a lot of guys talking, whether it be on the radio or on social media, is farmers' mental health. And I think that's been a thing forever, but there's a lot of stress that goes with it. I mean, there's a lot of money in and out all the time. You're trying to, whether it's a single guy farming or if you're trying to provide for a family or however you're doing it, it's just, there's so many moving parts, and then you're all at the mercy of the weather or the markets or, how the politics fall, because that has effects on the markets and everything too. You're at the mercy of whatever happens that year. If it doesn't rain, it's not going to make any crops. And sometimes it rains too much.
Or trade wars.
2025,
China is not purchasing any beans from us. And I think corn is more or less not being purchased as well by China.
That's kind of what I understand too, of course. And we can get rid of a lot more corn and those things over here too. But any of those little things change that. If we've counted on exports in the past, and all of a sudden they're not buying and exporting, that's going to drive our price down farther. And we were talking earlier, comparing that price to seeing that same price on a high 30 years ago. Well, back then fertilizer was so much cheaper. I think the comparison I saw was the high price for corn then is kind of where we're at on our low side price right now on corn. Yet fertilizer is 9 times more expensive than what it was 30 years ago. So per those numbers, I mean, there's no way to make that work. I mean, you can't pencil that very well whenever those prices are so low. Well, if China's not going to take those exports anymore, that's just going to drive our price down if we can't get rid of it. So I don't know. We're just at the mercy of any little thing that changes that is going to hurt us on this side. So, and occasionally it benefits us. You know, the cattle markets have skyrocketed this year, and
but that's not something you can put in the ground and in 6 months harvest.
Right, exactly. And I'm thankful to be in the cattle business as well too. You know, just to be diversified where we can be making money on cattle.
But if you wanted to scale up and retain some calves from this year, you probably have some calves still out in the fields.
Yep, absolutely.
You're looking at how many years before they can start producing calves.
Right. Yeah,
so it's not like 6 months and you're selling crops.
Right. Yeah, you're looking at, you know, if you keep back, say, a yearling, you're looking at least a year another year until she has a calf as a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And then a year, 6 months minimum after that before you could ever sell that calf.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is it's not as quick a turnaround, and that's one reason why we diversify between the cattle and the farm. You know, across the board, if cattle aren't making money, we're making money on the farm. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe the other way around. You know, the cattle are worth a lot, but then you also got to look at, if you're retaining those heifers, those are not heifers that you're selling this year too.
True. So, and you have to feed them.
Right. Right. Which, again, goes back to the farming side, which is the hay price is down fairly low this year compared to what it was 2 years ago. And so feed is cheap, cattle are up, it's a good year to feed.
And then you grow your own feed, I'm guessing?
We do. Yeah, we grow almost all of our own feed in the form of alfalfa feed. You know, we keep them on pasture in the summertime, but we grow all of our own feed for the wintertime. Yeah. So.
Now, the local commodities here in central Kansas. So we have wheat, soybeans, sorghum, milo, corn, what's a Sudan grass?
Yeah.
And alfalfa.
Yep. Trying to think. There's some oddities there, like sunflowers. Yeah, cotton in this area. Our big ones in this area would be corn and soybeans and milo for your fall crops, and then obviously wheat. You know, we're the wheat state, and that's our big one personally. You know, we grow probably 3 times more wheat than any other single commodity every year.
It should be a grain of wheat, not a sunflower, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, I guess we are the sunflower state, but we're also still the wheat state too. So, yeah. And we don't, that's kind of what we grow, is a little bit of that. You know, our big things are milo, soybeans, corn, wheat, and then alfalfa. And occasionally, I've got some Sudan this year that I grew to bale for feed. Okay. And some odds and ends, you know, here and there. Some crabgrass that we'll bale for hay and different things like that. But those are kind of our major ones. And like what we're prepping for in this field here is our next crop of wheat. Okay. So, and like right over here, up next to us on this other side, it's my dad's field, but he's got a full field of milo there, and that's dryland milo. So.
Okay. Now there are commodities that are coming back to full circle, and hemp is not necessarily on the commodity market yet, but it is a crop that has some very deep historical roots throughout history. Like, I'm just gonna say it, the sails and the riggings on the sailboats from way back when all used hemp.
Right.
So now hemp is starting to make a comeback as a more environmentally friendly crop. I went out there to this farm and I saw there's no weeds underneath that stuff. It is absolutely amazing. So what are your thoughts about, what are your thoughts about the future of farmers in, let's just say, this area, maybe switching a field or two to hemp?
You know, I don't know a lot about it personally, but from what I have heard, it sounds like it may be a good option moving forward. I think it might be a little bit hard in this particular area to get started. And the only reason I say that is because of, again, going back to the age of the farmers in this area. Yeah. I don't know if you're going to get guys to change their ways.
Stigma.
Yeah. The stigma that goes along with it too, along with just simply, this is the way I've always done it. I've always grown wheat on this. I'm not going to grow anything but wheat. Yep. You know, and And maybe there will be a change at some point, depending on what that's going to cost or what the potential benefits are, you know.
Well, now, here's a question. Stigma, habits, or money? Because, you know, we met the South Bend industrial hemp folks, and they have solved the problems of, I guess you can use your normal air seeder to put it in.
Yep.
And then they have the harvesting equipment and then a place to sell it. So you can plant it and sell it all right here. And historically, that was my understanding, at least 10 years ago, is that sure, you can plant it, but where are you gonna sell it?
Right, and I would agree with that too. You know, that's kind of the issue in this particular area. Our elevator takes milo, corn, beans, and wheat. And any of the guys that do canola or soy or sunflowers or cotton, they have to be hauled quite a ways from here, you know. So if they've got a place to go with it, and you know, if you don't have to change your complete arsenal of equipment that you've already got to grow it, those are some of the biggest things to overcome in this area. You know, if you want to haul sunflowers, nearest last I knew was you had to haul them clear up to Newton area.
Wow. If
you wanted to raise sunflowers, and you know that for here is looking at, I don't know, that's a good hour and 15 minutes, maybe more from this area, you know. And so that kind of changes things on how you're looking at doing that. If they've solved a place to get rid of it or a way to store it here close, then that has a better chance than maybe some, say, like sunflowers to me.
Exactly. So, and stigma could go out the window if, you know, this year's commodity prices, you know, corn's about to get harvested, milo's about to get harvested, wheat, they could see the numbers and then what they're selling the hemp for. And you could like, wow, this year I would have done better with a hemp field.
Right, yep. And it's real easy at the end of the season to turn around and look and say, oh, I only made this many dollars per acre on this commodity, but I planted some more of this and that made X amount of dollars better. I'm going to plant some more of that next year.
Exactly.
I mean, that's you got to look at that kind of across the board. And year to year, you
do have that option.
Yeah, yep, absolutely you do.
Yeah.
So we make those decisions every year, and sometimes best laid plans don't work.
Of course.
We have to change in the moment due to the weather or something else. But that's the thing. We plan that out every year, and that's subject to change. So there's another option that looks like a potential to make more money down the road, or be more profitable, or maybe less labor across the board at some point too. Less product. I think there's a good option there too. So
definitely. Okay, Matt, we are not quite done with this field, but we are running out of the things that makes all stuff move on this planet right now.
We are. We're running out of diesel. So we're going to have to shut her down and go find some more, or go track some down somewhere.
I've genuinely enjoyed hanging out with you today, shooting this shit. We did not record the entire conversation. We solved about half of the world's problems when the camera was not rolling. But thank you very much for your time. And if you do anything else that's interesting, look us up. And we're all about sharing really neat stories and experiences from small towns.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for coming along today.
And Matt's also got a YouTube channel.
I do. It's not taken off very big, but if you want to watch some of this stuff from the sky, check it out. It'll be at Matt Hildebrand 12.
And the volunteer fire department footage.
A
lot of good stories from there.
Another place that I've shared that a lot for fire department, and a lot of the farm stuff, and can all be found on that channel.
Awesome. Well, thanks for riding along with us. We will see you in the next one.